Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Nathan Thompson, and for this week's webinar, I have with me Kranthi Bathula, who is an expert in remote proctoring technology. And he's going to talk to us about some of the issues in maintaining test security and integrity as we move towards a more remote assessment model throughout the world. So thank you, Kranthi, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my name is Kranthi Bathula. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm the CTO / co-founder at Proctor360. We're about 7 years old as a company, and we've been doing this for a while. And yeah, just been working within this industry for a very long time, really understanding and growing with it as the needs change. So excited to talk about that.
Great, thank you, Kranthi. So how did you get into the assessment industry originally?
A very interesting question. So I think when I had joined Proctor360, it was right after finishing up my master's. My co-founder Ganga, he's been working in the proctoring industry. He owned physical brick and mortar testing centers in Virginia here, and he saw that the market was going online. He was like, "Hey, do you want to come manage the technology side of this with me?" And he kind of got me into it, and it's been a crazy ride since. Yeah.
Wonderful. So tell me a little more about Proctor360. When was it founded, and what do you focus on?
Yeah, we were founded in 2018. So we're a little over 7 years now. Our focus is primarily in high stakes testing, where we're utilizing our solution to deliver exams in a very secure and fair way. So we have a range of products utilizing automated auto proctoring, where we utilize AI. And then we have live proctoring, where we use higher security, a live proctor, and it's a higher secured solution. And then we have combinations of the two, where you'd want some AI triggering a live person to jump in, those types of situations as well.
Great. What kind of key differentiators do you have amongst some of the other players in the space?
I think the biggest key differentiator is probably our 360 headset. That was kind of our flagship product when we originally entered the market. This is where we utilize a headset with two 220-degree cameras, and we actually capture the entire 360 degrees of the testing space. Our goal with that was really to simulate as close to a physical brick and mortar testing space as possible, to bring that level of security in the home space. And we were really able to do that. We were successful with that. We That was one track, and then we also saw another track with traditional AI proctoring and like where that was going. So we decided to explore that more as well. So we were going ahead and actually putting resources behind the AI solution to make a more automated proctoring solution, where we could go ahead and have the AI doing the monitoring. And with that came its own limitations. It became, when you one of the things that we haven't been able to do yet is put AI on the 360 camera, right? And you're like, why wouldn't you be able to do that? It just sounds like something, it's another camera feed. You should be able to do it just like the webcam, right? But you're processing this additional piece of information, and you're getting so much data from it that in some cases the AI itself gets overwhelmed, right? So like you have this issue with like potential false flags going off the walls, right? So like one of the biggest complaints we get now in remote proctoring is like, with an automated solution, you tend to get a higher percentage of false flags, right? So if you applied that to like a 360 camera, where you're having two 220 degrees cameras, you're inviting more capability, more information, where things can go ahead and get false flagged. So that's probably the biggest reason we've like tried to keep those two separated. But we've definitely experimented with it before, and it's been really interesting to kind of look at.
Yeah, I suppose most of the AI algorithms out there are really focused around like the 90-degree view of a standard camera and the whole 220 would overwhelm them. And there's got to be some slight distortion too, compared
Yeah.
to the straight camera.
Yeah, so we actually have to like take that data and normalize it to like to a flat view, right? And then we
Yes.
process the flat view image, and then yeah, once we process, but you still get like a little bit of distortion. So like we were there, you'd be surprised. There are some AI models that are like decent at like looking at distorted images and like getting it, but like that's also the problem. They're just decent at it. They're not like exceptional.
Yes, I bet. Do you have any cool functionality coming out in 25 along those lines, or anything else?
Not right now. I think our focus right now has been primarily on user flow. So like one of the big things like we're focusing on is like, it kind of sounds boring, but like UI and UX, like just making the process for a user to be able to get into the exam as seamless and quick as possible and look as nice as possible. So like there's been a lot of that's a project that we've been working on for like the past year, has just been like, hey, what's the best way to make to improve the UI UX experience for the candidate, right? And it's been a lot. Like we like took proposals from all these different UI UX developers. We had our internal team submit a proposal. Ultimately, we went with like an outsider because we wanted someone that has never looked at our platform to like, because that's what a user ultimately does, right? They're probably not like looking at remote proctoring every day. So like we wanted someone that has never seen it to like come in and kind of take a look and see what would make them feel like it's the most seamless process there. So like we got the initial mock-ups and everything done, and then phase by phase we've been releasing it. So we released our LTI 1.3, that UI UX earlier this year. We're about to release the um, scheduling, that UI, and then our biggest release is going to come later this year where we're going ahead and doing the entire student side.
Yeah, I suppose that's not as sexy as a new AI algorithm or something like that, but it really is more important because
Yeah.
those are the true customers of the product. And
Mhm.
if they're having problems, they're going to complain to their professors or whoever the test sponsor is, and then those groups are going to start, taking heat.
Yeah.
What kind of clients do you typically work with, and do you have any flagship examples that you'd like to share?
So we did the math like probably earlier this year, and it's a 60-40 split. So like 60% of it is corporate clients. So like your certification organizations, your associations, things like that. And then 40% of it is academia. So like K through 12, higher ed, and graduate studies. So like it's a 60-40 split. I was a bit surprised. I would have expected more of the academia than the corporate clients, but apparently we do better in corporate America. Yeah. So it's been pretty interesting. I think once we got that data, it allowed us to kind of hone in on products a little bit more and make them more appropriate to uh, the corporate clients, and bring out features that associated that help them with their solutions, what they were looking for.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And we have a similar situation with us. And I think it also helps to think of it from a business perspective in that the university world is kind of shrinking, at least in the US. And they're going through a big sea change and trying to adjust in many different ways. Whereas corporate world still continues to grow, and people still want to get more certifications. New certifications are still being founded every year
Yeah.
as new technology happens and that sort of thing. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, that has been really interesting. I mean, we were seeing that there were a lot of studies published, like even prior to the new administration, we were seeing that, you know, we higher ed, there were less and less students signing up year on year, which was really weird. And then like I think it was WCAG, not WC, WCU, WVU, West Virginia University, that I was listening to something somewhere where they were talking about like they had built this all these like buildings, and they built it, and they were like, build it and they will come, but like no one came because like their uh, year on year student population was like decreasing. So like they were in this like deficit, and I'm seeing it with like a few local colleges here. So it's been pretty interesting. From like, I have a research background, like, like I did a master's in biomedical engineering, so like it's a little bit concerning for me, like looking at like research and like seeing like, okay, is that shrinking too? Like, I there's a lot of like really good work being done at like institutions that you know it it's a bit concerning about, is it, if it goes down. Obviously for the industry we work in, and in like education too, it's a bit concerning because we're a big part of our business is higher ed. So like, you know looking at that, and we've seen specific schools that have like done less year on year. So like, we've kind of tried to make the shift to focus more on like corporate.
Yeah, and I'm still waiting for some of those universities to shift towards being more of that corporate model, in that they're providing micro-credentials, certifications, assessment-based certificates, those sorts of things, rather than just the standard 4-year on-campus university degree. And I think
Yeah.
it's going to slowly move in that direction, but that is definitely an industry that is slow to innovate.
They like to take their time for sure.
Yes. Um, well, then let's also move to the discussion of online proctoring,
Hmm.
and how this plays into how the industry is changing, both the assessment industry as well as education industry as well too. So what do you see as the current state of remote proctoring, and where is it moving?
I think for the past 2 years, I've been getting a real big push to like, and I think it's not just me, I think it's every industry. It's like AI, right? So, and I'm sure you've heard the same thing, Nate, and it's been really a big push to, where are you utilizing AI, what's going on, like, or do you have any AI components? So that's been really, a thing that I've been hearing a lot from clients. um, I think I'm in a unique standpoint where they're asking me like, "Are you detecting AI?" So they're like, "We know that end users are using it. Are you detecting it?" So like, that's been a really interesting conversation, and I've had to like, demonstrate different ways, and we've had to incorporate different tools to be able to do that. Like we have to recognize the random chat GPT extension that's being utilized or something like that on a test to be able to like be able to show that, okay, like this was something that's being utilized during this exam, this is something you should look at. I think beyond that, it's becoming a mature and like mainstream solution. I think it's pretty common to have a remote proctoring solution now. It's almost seen as odd if you don't. um, I think institutions are viewing it as more of like a long-term strategy where they want to be able to like incorporate it, but also have the ability for in person to be an option. I think specifically that's because they want to have that traditional in person to be there. And I don't think that's ever going to disappear because there are some users, some candidates that just want to go to a testing center and they want everything to be set up for them and they just want to jump into their exam. And there are situations where there are accessibility needs where a test taker knows that they can go to a testing center and everything will be prepared for them. So it I think a lot of organizations are trying to do their best to balance the two. I think in terms of like adoption, we've really seen a great deal of it happen. I think that's been wonderful in a lot of ways, but it's also been like, something that we've had to cautiously do, so you know different organizations and different industries have different needs, right? So our corporate clients have different needs than our educational clients. instructors are worried about different things than the HR managers are, right? So really
Mhm.
understanding their needs, making sure that we package a solution that's right for the concerns that they have, and then implementing that has been really important for us.
Yeah. How did the pandemic change how you packaged that solution? And was it difference for the educational type clients than it was for the corporate tech?
Yeah, I think we saw a huge influx of educational clients as soon as the pandemic started, and we knew that we would have to be indoors for a significant period of time, so it basically forced widespread adoption, right? So because of that, we we had to it didn't matter if an institution resisted it. They were kind of forced to go ahead and do it. And talking like peak pandemic, when everyone was forced to be inside, versus like post pandemic, we worked with a major community college system here in the United States, and we were looking at peak pandemic. They required that obviously 100% of the students go and test remotely, and then we were looking at data post pandemic once their testing centers were back open again, and they were telling me that we were they were seeing 70% prefer online proctoring over 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 coming in person. So I think the it- showing that that ability was available to students forced institutions to now have to like support it basically, and say that hey, we this is an option for you, right? And then there were certain organizations that 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 I've talked to at conferences at post pandemic, and they were like, we had to shut it down, and they were like, I was like, why? And they were, the answer was always the same. It was like, we didn't think there was enough security. We saw students getting around it. And then I was like, okay, like, I don't think they found the right solution for them. In all honesty, I think it could be done if they found the right solution, but they had that negative experience where they had students being able to get through the process. So I have seen some of that happen too.
Yeah, I suppose some of it was probably just, a professor watching 50 students on Zoom or something like that, and
Yeah,
they're not going to catch things, and it's only Zoom. It's
yeah.
that narrow view too. So what are some of the creative ways students have cheated that you mentioned that the organizations were recognizing, and how did that drive some of your product?
Yeah, yeah. I think there's so many. So like I every once in a while, like I'll get a call from like a proctor, and he's like, hey, like I think like I think I'm like concerned about this particular session. Can you like take a look at it like at this timestamp? And I'm like, okay, sure. So like some of the I guess the most creative ways is just like you have this view, right? And like this is a very limited view, right? So like you don't know everything that's behind me, to the side of me, and you and I know that, and the students also know that, and they know that they can put things outside of that view. So like behind my camera here are like two more monitors, right? So like I could very easily have like different notes and stuff up there. So them taking advantage of that, and being able to like get around that, and then them using sticky notes and placing it all over, and then I recommend there's this subreddit that I follow. I think it's remote proctoring, and it's like a bunch of students going and like literally posting how they get around remote proctoring. So it's like I'm on there all the time because I'm like, okay, how are they doing it now? How are they doing it now? So like it's been really interesting to like see that, and how it's driven our product is it's been really interesting. I think we've had to introduce. There's been more of an interest towards our like multicam solutions, right? So like obviously we have the 360 cam, right, and there's been a push towards that, but it's a hardware device, right? So like it requires a physical like hardware device that may not be as accessible to every organization. So what we've started been doing is using the cell phone as a secondary camera, and using that as an additional camera source, right? And going ahead and having that being placed in the testing space and doing all that. So I think that's probably um, where it's driven our product, where we have to add more security, make it still very accessible, and be able to effectively deliver. So like moving towards our secondary camera solution has been the solution there.
Yeah, it's never ceased to amaze me how much the students will try to cheat. And, they help each other at it too, even though they're essentially hurting themselves by doing so. Um, One of the funniest things I found on our YouTube channel, where we post these webinar videos, one of the past ones that we've done from like 2-3 years ago, now has 40,000 hits or views.
Yeah,
And almost all the comments are students that are angry that we would have a discussion like you and I are having right
yeah.
now, because they feel entitled to cheat. Like it's something that should just happen. Why isn't everybody just cheating? How about you just put that much effort into learning?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what me and like I've had some really amazing conversations with instructors, and like they seem like more than anyone at any organization, like they seem that more concerned with their testing integrity than anyone. Like deans are concerned about budget, but like instructors are always like, hey, like I want to make sure that my students are learning, and the right students are passing this class, and they have a lot of concerns about remote testing, and like the making sure that that's protected. So they've been really great to talk to, and like we always come around to like there's always like a Q and A, like they're like, so what do you guys do in this scenario, this scenario, this scenario, this scenario, and we like it's like 50 minutes of like talking about that, and then like ultimately I'm like I answer all the questions, and then ultimately I'd be like, wouldn't it be nice if they just spent the time just learning than
Yes.
like trying to figure out all these ways to get around the system.
Yeah, they'll come up with 50 ways to cheat rather than one way to learn the material. So you talked earlier about UI UX. What are some of the best practices to reduce frictions for candidates and to ensure a positive experience?
Okay. Yeah. This is something that we've definitely had to work on, right? From our beginning to where we're at now, like 7 years ago versus now. In my mind, I think when we started, I was like, this is obvious, this is obvious, this is obvious. Obviously, you click on the link here to go take your assessment, right? And like I've been proven wrong, and we've had to like modify and change as we go ahead and progress. The big thing is like communication. I think like clear communication in as many spots as possible. I think redundancy is key. If you know, providing as many, providing the exam link and instructions in like different modalities. Like one, when they sign up for the exam, they always get like an email as well, just to provide an additional way to go and access the exam. They see it in their LMS as well. So providing these different areas where they all take them to the same thing, but like providing these different ways to access it. So just in case they can't access their LMS, they have the email. Just in case they don't have access to their email that day, they see it, on like they saved it in their bookmarks or something like that. So that I think redundancy is big. I think clear communication, not just from the proctoring company that does it, but also from the organization is key. Letting them know, hey, we are implementing this tool. This is what it's going to be doing. You need a webcam, you need a computer, a laptop, or a desktop. Those types of things beforehand are really important. And I think the ability to offer practice tests has been really helpful. So, being able to offer candidates the ability to go and just run through the process of getting onto their exam and what it would look like has been really helpful for a lot of candidates. Just to, I think every candidate knows what they have to do once they get into the exam, right? They just need to go. I think they're sometimes unfamiliar with all the steps prior to it, and we just need to get them prepped for that. So the practice tests really help with that. Help with that. And then creating a system that's really just lightweight, intuitive, and I think that's it. Yeah, those are the big things for me.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Those practice tests are critical because otherwise this might be the first time they're using the system when they go in to take the test and they're already stressed. Whereas the LMS, they've probably been using it every day for months or possibly even years.
Yeah.
So what are some challenges that these institutions, you mentioned the instructors that have in implementing and managing a proctoring system on their own, because they also probably aren't experts in proctoring technology either. They're an English professor or something where they've got lots of expertise in one area, but maybe not in the proctoring technology. How do you work with them?
Yeah, sometimes with instructors, we found it to be a little bit of an uphill battle because they come with this, they're concerned with like, they come with a level of like resistance or like skepticism towards like remote proctoring. So like, going through those, that 50-minute hour meeting where we're like, hey, this is what we're going ahead and solving for, and then bring on your questions and then like let's address them, right? So I think being able to go ahead and address all their issues has been a big thing. um, I think the other big thing is integration with their LMS, you know, making it as seamless for them, providing them the capability to view information after an exam has been completed, right? So like, giving them the ability to go and across the list see, hey, these are the flags that were observed, and if you're concerned, here are the live screenshots, and then here's the recordings of the session, so you can go ahead and review everything yourself. So giving them a way to like take a quick glance, and then also giving them all the information that was collected, lets us be transparent about what we're sharing with them, but also gives them a lot of confidence to be able to go ahead and say, okay, I have everything I need to be able to go do what I need to. um, I guess the problem that comes with that is like, there is a bit of training involved, because like it's it's a system that does a lot of different things and has a lot of different capabilities. So we have to train faculty to get the most out of it. And we have to make recommendations in certain cases in terms of like the security settings that they turn on or off, depending on the type of exam that they want to administer. So I think that's probably like, working with faculty, I don't want to say is like a challenge, but like, it's what it's not necessarily a challenge, but like, getting them to get the most out of the product. Working with them and doing the training has been very insightful for us.
Yeah, they're the ones I think that you need to have the most buy-in, and you're absolutely right. The options part, that's something I struggle with a lot too. The more powerful software that you build, the harder it is that becomes to use. And pretty soon, the setup page has 50 checkboxes on it. And like, how do you explain every one of those to the users?
Yeah, and that has been a struggle for us, like internally, I think, because you build this, and Nate, I know you have experience with this. You build this like complicated like product. You build this amazing product that is complicated because it has so many uh, capabilities to it, and then like, but no one's going to use a product that has like 50 checkboxes, right? So you need to like condense it and somehow like, make it usable to someone where you could like go give them a 10-minute brief and say, hey, this is how you use it, and then they should be good to go. So like, I think uh, I think that's been a challenge, uh, and that's one of the biggest concerns that I have, in terms of like building out a SaaS product is like, it's not like I know how to do everything because like I designed it. I designed it, right? But like
Hmm.
I can't expect the average person or someone that's never used remote proctoring to like know about it. So like I have to like somehow condense it to make it accessible to everyone.
Yeah, and it also depends a lot on one population you're working with, because my product's used by a lot of psychometricians, and all the psychometricians I talk to want more checkboxes. Like,
Yeah.
so it's crazy. Uh, now, another thing that you probably have to deal with is accessibility for the students. And how do you set up accessibility controls for them and make it easy for those instructors to manage that as well?
Right. The big thing is, across the board, we decided pretty early on that we had to be WCAG compliant. So that's the compliance standard that we have across the board for our end user use products. So like that's the student side and the instructor side. So for those products, we've you know put that standard layer on, and so that really helps with use people that are using the product. There's the font size is correct. There's adequate contrast between background and foreground, things like that. Beyond that, you're absolutely right. There's certain situations where a user might have to use a screen reader, have to have extra time, things like that. So in those situations, having the capability to make modifications on a per user Proctor session is really important. I think that having that ability has been essential for us, where we can go ahead and put in those changes, change up security settings for a particular um, test taker's exam session, so that they get the additional time, or they get the blocks removed for the screen reader, things like that.
Okay, wonderful. So then, as a follow-up to all this, do you have some best practices that you recommend to instructors, or like certification board managers, people who aren't proctoring experts, for maintaining test security? When you're getting them to understand the big picture and not just all the checkboxes.
Yeah, I think it's a active process. I think it's on my side, like I'm seeing it change from like quarter to quarter, like um s- test takers are finding new unique ways to get around the system, and it keeps my job exciting for sure. Um but to an instructor or a certification manager, I'm sure it's annoying. So I think they should really just understand that it is, the cheating side is evolving, so the proctoring side needs to as well simultaneously. So being able to go ahead and understand that there are going to be issues that arise there, our goal, is to really make sure that it doesn't happen at all. But occasionally you might have one or two that slip through the cracks. But the point is like, okay, we've learned that, we've identified it. Let's figure out how they did it, and let's make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, that's definitely important. All right. Well, thanks for taking the time to join us today and talk about this. As a follow-up, how can people reach you if they'd like to work with Proctor360 and learn a little more about some of the things that you're doing, especially the unique things like the AI or the 360-degree headsets?
Absolutely. Please go to proctor360.com, fill out a demo request. Um, yeah, that's probably the best way to reach out to us. We'd be happy to see what your needs are, see if we can help. Just talk about exam security if you want to do that too.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again for taking the time to chat with me today. It's always a pleasure to discuss remote proctoring with you. I always learn something more about it, and initially people think of it as something that's really simple, like, oh, you just need a video stream like Google Meet or Zoom, but there really is a lot more that goes onto it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you for having me, Nate.
You're very welcome. So those of you who are listening, I'll put some information on how to visit Proctor360 in the notes on the bottom, and I'll send out an email with recorded video for those of you who were not able to attend. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.